This is Her Power Hustle with Michelle Talbot, where inspiration meets motivation to empower you for the perspiration of being a woman entrepreneur.
Hey, Sister Power Hustlers, it's Michelle Talbot here. Welcome to episode 21 of the Her Power Hustle podcast, the place where inspiration meets motivation to empower you for the perspiration of being a woman entrepreneur. I'm so glad you're here today. Today we are talking sales. And before you press stop or move on to another episode, which you can listen to after this one, know that everyone is in sales, and you may think that you're great at it, and you may think that you suck at it. Either way, this will be a great show for you because our guest, Donald Kelly, is the sales evangelist. I've never seen anyone in person so excited about the art and science of selling and helping others become great salespeople as well. So in this episode, we're going to talk about just that, the art, the science, the mindsets involved, the shifts, selling for introverts and also selling for extroverts, right? Because it's really important, as you'll hear Donald say, that you meet the clients where they are, meet their objections, and make sure that you're not bringing your own baggage to the table. So I think that this is a really great episode because we are always selling. No matter what we think, we have to sell our ideas, we have to sell our concepts, whatever industry or whether we're entrepreneurs, sidepreneurs, full-time, part-time, etc. So I think that you'll get a lot of value out of this episode, and I hope so, and I definitely would love to hear from you after you get a chance to listen. You can email me, of course, always at michelle@herpowerhustle.com, and of course you can join us in the private and exclusive Facebook group for Sister Power Hustlers, the Sister Power Hustlers Facebook group. Just find it on Facebook, or you can head over to herpowerhustle.com/Facebook. Okay, so we're going to dive right into this episode, and I will chat with you on the other side with my takeaways. Just a little of a heads up, we had a little bit of a technical glitch, but of course we kept the show moving, but you will hear there's a little bit in within the first 10 minutes of the show where we had to switch technology to complete the interview, but we powered through, and we hope that you enjoy. Thanks.
Welcome back to Her Power Hustle. Thank you so much for joining. Really excited. As usual, I really always say I'm excited because I really am always excited about our guests, and today is no different. You will find out why very soon. I am speaking with Mr. Donald Kelly, and if you are not familiar with him, he is the Sales Evangelist. And if you've ever heard the words sales and evangelist in the same sentence, you understand that there is a fervor and a fever and a fervor brought to the word sales, and Donald definitely does that. He is like most of us. We're all sort of out here. We're professionals. We're hustling. We sell every day, all the time. And a lot of people have a really negative connotation attached with sales. And what I love about Donald is that he has his personal ethos, that you have to value what you're sharing, and then it doesn't feel so swarmy because you're helping someone else. So I'm going to let him tell the rest, but just know that he is an awesome guest. I'm really excited to be speaking with him. He hosts a podcast, The Sales Evangelist, and the community of sales evangelizers, of which I am one and very proud to be. Mr. Donald Kelly, thank you and welcome to Her Power Hustle.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show, and I'll slip you a 20 for that nice intro.
I know, right? I will be expecting it. I shall send you a PayPal receipt. Thank you for joining. So, you were actually dubbed the Sales Evangelist by a good friend to both of us, Mr. Jared Easley, a host of Starve the Doubts and one of the coordinators behind Podcast Movement. Tell us how you got the name the Sales Evangelist.
It was a good one. Well, I was previously in college. I read about Guy Kawasaki and that he was Apple's sales evangelist for a number of years. then I just thought that term was very interesting. I was like, that's cool. Evangelist, somebody who goes out, to evangelize. And I was like, oh, evangelizes about sales. He evangelizes Apple. I thought it was a fitting title for him. Then when I came into the technical world, I was selling this managed IT services. And everyone, when I went to a networking event, everyone was like, oh, I'm account representative John, and I am the business development hero. There's just, everything was around the typical titles. So I was like, I'm going to be the IT evangelist. And I did that, and every time when I would say that, it drew people's attention. And then I just I put that on my business cards and kept going with it. Now forward into software selling, I thought I knew how to sell for years, and it turns out that I was getting by on personality and what I thought was the way to sell. And when I received formal training and did, just read and studied, I started to have exponential success with selling. Then I would always evangelize. Everything that I find good in life, I want to evangelize about it. I want to tell people about it, whether it's find a new eating, shop or something. I want to tell people about it. So I was like this evangelist. And then Jared's like, man, you're like the sales evangelist. And I was like, that's fitting. And then I went on his podcast and did a couple episodes, and then he was like, dude, you should do your own podcast. And then we developed it, and now we're here, the Sales Evangelist. And it's been great branding and developing over the past couple of years, and it's fun. And we love the brand and the title.
And I think it's absolutely appropriate. As you know, I spoke with Guy Kawasaki, and for our listeners who are listening, you can find all of the great information that Donald's about to share with us, as well as the interview that I did with Guy Kawasaki at herpowerhustle.com/sales. And Guy Kawasaki exactly defined what an evangelist was to him and why he took on that moniker. And I think for you, it is absolutely also applicable. So I think that's great. And the fact that you're now able to use that as a platform to help others. So talk to us a bit about, because you said, I was getting by on personality, but then I got formal training. So it sounds like you're saying that there's an art and a science to sales and sales evangelizing. But talk to us about the art and the science and how they come together to really create that golden nugget you need to be a good salesperson.
Well, great question. There's something that most salespeople find, and we've all done it. I guarantee we've all done it. If you're listening to this podcast, you have a friend, and a friend is outgoing. They're like to, when you talk about going places, they're the one who most vocal, and they're kind of persuade the group. Let's go to a movie, or we're going to go watch this movie, and people probably tell him or her, you know what, you're like a salesperson. You should be going to sales. What happens in their mind, they're like, oh, I could sell. Then they go into sales, and they realize that doesn't work. They have a good personality, but what I came to realize, personality alone doesn't make sales. You can have an ability to connect with people, an easier way maybe to build a relationship. However, if you don't have the science part, the process, the steps, the strategies, the tools needed to implement to develop a sale, then you're going to feel horrible at it. And that's what I saw. And that's why a lot of people quit sales. So many people fall out of selling, and it has a low barrier of entry. Because of that, so many people enter it and they find meager success, or they relieve themselves by quitting, or companies relieve them. And that can't stand with me. And I realized when I recognized the truth of it, when I saw the light, so to speak, that all these people who I thought were supposed to be the ideal sellers, that wasn't the case. It was just like these common Joes, just common Marys, these Elisas, just, people who were just out there, normal people. And they were bringing something to the table. And what it was, they had 1, the formal training, 2, which is a science, 2, the personality or the art form, where you have to infuse your personality in the training and techniques that you learn so that it's more human. And when you can do that, you can see tremendous power. And I'm sure you saw that when you were in a world of, attorney. There's some who probably just go by the books and this is how we do things. But those who influx their personality into their art, being able to be a great attorney, it works out great. Same thing with doctors, same thing with, police officers. If you infuse your personality with the technical side, you can be tremendously successful. And that's what I feel. So sales truly is an art. The personality, the emotions, the ability to bring that out, and then it's a science because you have to understand the technical side and mold that towards you. Makes sense there?
Absolutely. And the voice that you just did sounds exactly like one of my old partners. Not kidding. Okay, so let's break this down. Let's say you're an introvert, or you don't necessarily have the most outgoing personality. I mean, you and I, let's face it, we're mavens. We're going to be out there. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Everyone is not like that. So for the people who are listening who say, I'm in sales, or I am a business person, and so I know I need to generate clients and customers, and that's sales, what do they do on the art side of things? Because do you feel that it's only innate and only certain people can sell, or
introverts, or not the most outgoing, or are otherwise reserved, we'll say, can they still be great salespeople?
Totally. The truth about it too is that when you are selling, again, it's your personality you got to bring in there. And one of the things that we come across, one of the challenges that we find sometimes is that we try to be somebody else that we're not. And I totally don't agree with that concept. You still have to be yourself and maintain your personality. It doesn't matter who you are. So let's say, for instance, if you're an introvert, you're a quiet person, you can still use that personality towards selling. You can still make you. The key there is to follow the simple principles, the science part, and infuse that with your personality. You can still be laid back and you can still do great. And the misconception is that you have to be outgoing to sell. It doesn't necessarily be the case. You can totally be who you are, but if you follow the basic principles of selling, that's where the power comes in, because people like to connect on a human level. You've probably all heard of Daniel Pink's book, To Sell is Human, and Jeb Blunt has a book called People by You, and it's the concept of being the human experience, the human side. So you can totally sell with your personality as an introvert.
I do want to get back to the principles and have you walk us through that piece, because that's definitely the science. But just sticking to the art side a little bit, do you find value in sort of meeting your customers or potential clients where they are? In other words, I find that sometimes I will match the energy, or maybe just be a little above the energy of someone with whom I'm interacting. Like, I don't want to overwhelm them with my effervescence when I first meet them if they tend to be reserved. So do you find that sometimes there's some pattern matching that works in terms of personality pattern matching with customers? Is that a good idea, or do you see that happen naturally, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just did an episode on this, actually, and it went live last week with a guy named Jim Jacobus, and I had a co-host named Todd Irvin. And the concept behind that episode was the disc profiling, and it's all about how you can match the personality of someone else. It's really understanding who they are so that you can sell to them the way that they want to be sold. Because one of the things that we've learned over the years is treat people the way that you would like to be treated. Though it's true in a lot of levels where, you want to be treated nice, so treat people nice, some of those main things. But if you really dig down deep as far as business goes, you don't want to treat people exactly the way that you would like to be treated. Treat them the way that they would like to be treated. Mm-hmm. And the more you can understand them, you can speak to their needs and their challenges, their issues, what they have. Because so many sellers, they're afraid of pricing, and they might say, oh, that's too expensive. But for the buyer, it's like, oh, $5,000, that's no big deal. $5,000 is not a big deal. I can spend that. And if you were to sell based on the way you would like to be sold in that situation, then you're going to be very meager in your results. The key, again, is to understand the person and to mirror and match their personality. Give them what they want, and the more you can understand them, the more you can understand the way that they buy, their personality, the more you can better connect with them, because people will feel that I connect with you, therefore I feel a kinship, I feel a connection, I know you now. and I am going to buy from you as opposed to this other seller who's calling me and I have no clue or know anything about them. They're not connecting with me. People buy from those they know, they like, and trust. And the more you can build this rapport, this relationship, people begin to know you. They begin to like you because your personality is similar to theirs. And then now they trust you. And then you so happen to have a product that they need because you understand their challenge, and you have a sale.
You just made that sound so easy, right? I love it. Okay,
and the great part about it is that easy. However, it doesn't work out every single time. I mean, it takes work, but the cool part about the selling, that's why I evangelize it. I mean, if I was a little pesky little kid who was able to find success in sales, outbeat people who are 25-year vet in the software selling, anyone can do it, and that's my whole mantra. Anyone can sell if you have a desire to sell, and I can show you how.
Well, I definitely say my kids, they were younger when the movie Ratatouille came out, and that was the whole premise was anyone can cook, and so anyone can sell. I love it. Okay. So, all right. So let's flip over a little bit now to the science. You said there are some there's some certain basic principles of selling. Can you just walk us through a couple of what those are?
Yeah. I think one of the main ones is to, like we talked about, understanding the personality of the buyer, understanding who they are, what they feel, how they like to be approached, and you can totally do that. There are several different parts towards the sale. The building of the rapport or building the relationship, it's breaking down the barriers and connecting, and that's where you have that part where you connect. You start to know and like each other, start to build that trust. Then you roll into the next phase. There's a next phase that you're going to now understand their challenge. It's called almost like a discovery phase. I'm going to discover what their pain is. However, it would be very beneficial if I came with a understanding of their business, some of the challenges they may face, and that I could position my product, and I can learn a little bit more about them during the discovery phase as well. But you gotta make sure you come with something to the table. You can't just say, I have this product that's going to help you. How do you know this? Do you know anything about my company? Do you know how much money we bring in? Do you know what kind of cost this is causing us right now? So, understanding that. So discovering and also bringing some stuff to the table.
Sorry.
No. So the next little part there you want to make sure you can do is make sure you're talking to decision makers as well. And most sellers, we find that whenever we find someone who's interested, we're like, we got a live one on the call. Then we think that they're going to buy from us. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that they really care for you, even if they're a warm one or if they're the right person. So you might sit there and might think, oh yeah, I need to sell to this person, but you may be selling to the wrong person. You make sure you have the decision maker, the person who is going to have the power to say yes or to write that check. You want to, once you have the decision maker, once you understand their challenge and you're able to, build relationship and so forth, then what you want to do, you want to make sure that you're not afraid to talk about money. Sometimes sellers get to the point where they're like, I'm afraid to bring up the dollars and cents or whatever. They might say no. You got to get that out of there. So you got to be able to talk budget, talk money, make sure they're a fit. And then if that's the case, they can pay for what you're offering or what you're selling. Then it goes into the demonstration phase. If it's something that you can demonstrate to them and show them in the demonstration phase. The demonstration phase is pretty much the sealing of the icing on the cake. It's you telling them. It's you showing them what you told them that you could do. Does that make sense there?
Mm-hmm.
And then after you do that, then the last part is where you're closing the sale, or you're closing that portion of it and starting the new business relationship. And because you want to help them become now Customer Evangelists, where they now sell for you. And then you got to learn how to be able to close that portion of the business and to onboard them, so to speak. And that's where a lot of people also have challenges with. They're afraid to ask the question. They might have done everything great, but they're afraid to get up to the point to take the next step. And sometimes you have not push people, but you have to help them see the way. I feel the best way to sell is to use the proper questions and asking because when you are able to ask the proper question, you help people to understand, and then the people in turn persuade themselves. But you need to prompt them to say, what would you like to do next, or let's get going, or whatever your particular industry, verbiage may be to start on your product or service. But you can't just sit back and say, well, I gave them all the information, I showed them stuff, now I'm going to wait for them to call me. No, you got to make this sucker happen. So that's kind of like a basic outline of some of the science. I mean, it gets more technical as you drill down into each area, like some of the questions you may ask, or if you got in trouble, if somebody's asking about a really tough question, different techniques and strategies how you can get out of situations like that. But that'd probably be a much longer call.
No, well, that's why we have you on the call, so people know who to call when they have these questions. And you are definitely the person to help people with these issues, and we'll talk a bit about what you do to help people with these issues as well. So talk to us then a bit about what you see the most common issues that people have, or where they stumble the most, or the biggest objection that you get from potential salespeople that, they're getting in their own way about.
Okay, I mean, there are a lot of different ones. Some of the ones that I've seen, I'm just going to go from my experience of being a software seller and different technical selling capabilities. Different technical selling companies I work for. You find that people have objection based on they don't believe you. Whenever someone having a major objection, it may be that it usually ties back to they don't see the value in what you have, so it becomes in the salesperson mind, it becomes a price. And I was there, and I would say that, where people would start saying, well, it's too expensive. Well, it's too expensive because I didn't help them to see the value in what we have to offer, that it would reduce their overhead or their expenses. So a lot of time that's what it is. Cost is never usually the major issue if the person has adequate enough pain. Now, I'm not saying that people don't have money. That's usually some people just really don't have the money. But if you've done your homework, you recognize they have adequate pain, and you can save them money, then cost is not usually the issue at that point. So that's one of the things that I usually get. Some of the things also I get from objections was when we would try to help clients move from the physical storage to the cloud instead of hosting things internally, but going to the cloud. I mean, whatever industries, sometimes you find generational gaps, and some folks are just more apprehensive about utilizing technology. So, in my software world, that's some of the things that I used to come across a lot is I'm afraid of the cloud. What if my stuff get lost and blah, 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 and all this stuff. So, you get objections and things like that. And the way you solve most of any objection is to help them, really walk them through. People just really don't know. If you can educate them, then they realize, oh, that's not a big issue. So you educate them enough that they understand, and then again, they persuade themselves to saying, well, I can do this too. With sellers, a lot of times I find that sellers, they are afraid of going out and finding. The fear of rejection paralyzes them. If somebody tells me no, then my life is over, and then I have to go and leave and go live in Abu Dhabi because ruin everything. I mean, I don't know. I do understand it. Now, coming from the other side, I've been there and I've learned that that's not the case. Most times, 9 out of 10 times, Michelle, when somebody's rejecting you, quote unquote, they're not rejecting you. They don't even know you yet. I mean, you're calling them cold, or you're just meeting them. They have no clue who you are yet. You didn't build that strong relationship bond. They don't know, like, and trust you. If they're rejecting you, they're rejecting the role as a seller. They're rejecting the salesperson. They have no idea who you are. Nothing. Sometimes people feel like they're disgracing their family line, so they get mad. Somebody who hangs up on them. It's like, oh man, it's like you just insulted my grandmother. Like, no, they didn't. They don't know who you are. They have no clue. And what the problem was, what they do, they take that rejection or that being crippled and go into the next call with this negative feeling, and then next thing you know, that person rejects them too. Well, now the problem is you, buddy, and not necessarily other people, because you need to let go of yourself And you need to let go of the fact that they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the role as a salesperson. You need to still maintain that high sense of self-worth, self-confidence, and move to the next one. Sometimes it's just not a fit, not a right timing. Not everyone buys from you right away. So you got to make sure that you understand that and move to the next one and go find another deal because they're out there. So those are some of the things, or giving up too easy. People don't follow up. I find that salespeople are afraid of following up. I might offend them if I call too much. Like, come on, get over that. Most times people are, again, they're not sitting there waiting for, dang it, I'm waiting for this cold caller to call right now or a salesperson to call. I was dreaming about this last night. Nobody thinks about that. So they're not sitting there waiting for your stuff. They have busy lives. They have businesses. They have families. They have jobs. They have personal life that they want to do, so things they want to do. So you got to make sure that if they don't respond to you after one or two, it's not that they don't care. It's just that they probably didn't know or hear anything or didn't get that email because it's buried under the 200 emails they have in their inbox. So following up, not being afraid of rejection, and being able to just open your mouth and ask for the money.
And I think that there's something to be said with that last piece you said with regard to following up, that even marketers know that you have to touch people a number of times. I don't remember what the exact number of times are, but you have to touch people, or people have to see you or see your product or your brand or your service a number of times before they'll actually be even willing to make a purchase, oftentimes. Now, do you agree with that? Or
Totally agree with it. In sales, generally, it's probably about 8 to 12 times, depending.
Right, and people's eyes just bugged out of their heads when they heard you say that. 8 to 12 times?
I know. That's like the voicemails. That's like maybe an email. I have an episode coming out soon, and it's like golden. What I'm doing now, I'm calling it the executive suites, and I'm interviewing executives, business owners, and CEOs of companies and chief financial officers, people who have the ability to say yes, those decision makers, and asking them, what's the best way to approach you? Instead of doing the guessing game, I'm gaining from them, and I've had some lively discussions, and some of the things you'll hear that they say is like, oh my goodness, well, they're telling me this, so I better do it, as opposed to let me guess and see what's the best way to do it. No theoretical stuff here, it's actual things, and I love that. So let's go back to the science, and so that's one of the things I have coming out, and it ties really well with what you're saying. People just you'll recognize that these sales executives they're just really busy, and they like you to touch them in different. Well, let's not use the word. That sounds horrible. Not touch them, but contact them.
Reach out.
Different ways.
So, what do you help? How do you help people who are new entrepreneurs or new salespeople, or they're expert? I'll give you a prime example. I sold real estate for a few years in the Washington, D.C. area, and my partner had been in the industry for over 20 years. So I had a really great mentor, and I was her apprentice, and I had a lot of the tools and mindset, but I hadn't had more than 1 or 2 sales when what I'm getting ready to tell you happened. I met a couple at a property, and, we're looking at the property, and they're sort of, kicking the tires, et cetera. Mixed metaphor, but you get the point. And, the husband and the couple looked over at me and said, so how long have you been selling real estate? Well, I've been doing it for under a year. So I didn't want to seem like a newbie. And, I just generally said, my partner and I combined have over 20 years experience, and we do this together, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, how long have you, he really was just pushing the button of how long have you been doing this? Like, finally just said, I'm an attorney. I have a very strong corporate background, and I'm really enjoying being a broker now, and I've been doing it for under a year. And I just had to just put it there, but I had to then position myself as an expert somehow, right? What do you say to folks who feel that people feel that they're a little too green, or how do they make themselves seem more experienced, or that they're worthy of getting the sale when they're new, if that makes sense?
There's a couple different. It's a great point, and I think it's a great question to ask. There is a theory that I discovered while I was doing my some early selling in college. And some people, the expertness is something that they would want, but you would be amazed, again, how many people don't really mind that you're not an expert. And I'll give you an example. When I was a server in college, one of the things they used to tell us, and what I used to always do, is say, hey, I'm new at this. And when I would say that, people were the most patient with me. And I tend to got the most, some of the most better tips, and because I was new and I became human to them. I was, instead of being this server, I was now Donald. I was the guy that was, it's not that I'm untouchable. I am touchable. I'm approachable. I'm going to have challenges. I'm going to make mistakes, just like they are. I'm going to their level, and they were able to sympathize with me, and I saw a great benefit there. I remember once someone gave me even they bought like a $10 worth of stuff. I'm not sure if this was my new face, but either way, it's a personality side, and the tip should have been, like a few bucks, but they ended up giving me a 50, and they said, I feel like I get some change for you. I said, no, keep it. And so I was like, oh my goodness, someone's giving me like a $40 tip just on this little dinner that they had. But the whole point of the matter is you can embrace that. You can embrace that and learn from it. And even if you don't know, even if you're not the expert, just like you said, you can rely on the company. You can be upfront with people too. Sometimes I find that to be a lot of times it's so powerful when you tell them, hey, I'm not an expert at this, but what I have seen is what our company has been doing this for X amount of years, just like you said with your buddy, over 20 years experience. And we know a thing or two about selling. And you can always turn it back into their court instead of and ask them, say, is that a criteria that you're looking for to make a decision? Does it have to be someone that is an expert or a company that has an experience? And you'll probably find out that, I just want to make sure that we're getting the best deal. Oh, perfect. Our company has been doing this, blah, 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 blah. And give some references and say, we can, whatever. Just take this big elephant in the room, just bring it out and talk about that. But 9 times out of 10, people, I've seen in my experience, 9 times out of 10, they don't mind the ones that you come forward with it and share with them, just like what you said, you told them there, and they go forward. So it shouldn't be a crippler, and if it is, then that's probably a very, very small portion of people compared to all the billions of people out there in your industry. Maybe you have millions of people that you can benefit. So, worst case scenario, say bye-bye and move on to the next one if that's going to be the case. But my experience tell me that they'll probably lean to you.
Lean back.
Yeah.
So, as we begin to wind down the conversation, I really want people to understand that these great tips that you're giving us are available to them as well, because you are also an entrepreneur and you work with people in the sales realm. So please tell us about what you do and how you help people.
Yeah, and go back to the last question. I didn't consider myself, I've never said anywhere that I was a sales expert. When I started the Sales Evangelist at the time, I evangelized about selling, but it was also a little bit of selfish means, because if I was able to get connected with folks like Gittimer and Jill Conrad and sit down and chat with these people, I was able to learn a lot from them. But as a result, I was able to provide information to a community that was growing, and I saw that it was I learned a lot from it. Over time, people started reaching out to me based on, because I do a solo episode a week. I do about a 10-minute episode, and then I have a 30-minute episode with an expert where we address topics or challenges. And people started approaching me because they saw me as the expert, and they envisioned me as that expert because of the knowledge that I shared. And then that grew into what we have now, where we're doing one-on-one sales coaching / mentoring. Some people like different terms, but most of my clients are business owners, or they're individuals in a company that want to improve their selling. So they hire us monthly to do different levels, whether they want to meet with me once a month or twice a month or 4 times a month. And we meet weekly, and we do a remote sales coaching training. I address challenges that they're facing and train them on different things. We're launching pretty soon. I was writing some of the stuff down today, getting some stuff to the web guy, hopefully next couple of weeks, where we're launching the sales page for on-site training and speaking. So we'll have more. We're going to start doing some workshops and seminars, and we'll go and do keynotes in companies and do training to a lot of the most common needs that companies have when it comes to sales, and do training on that. So that webpage will be coming up soon. And then we've been dibbling and back and forth on our sales course, and we have one, and we're trying to figure out what the best way we're going to do that based on what our audience wants. But we may do a membership where they can get access to courses via membership portal, or where they can just purchase courses a la carte, like a cold calling course or basic sales training course, or overcoming rejection, whatever it might be. So we have a couple different things. So it's getting pretty busy. So that's what it comes down to. I love selling, and I want to help people to be able to find tremendous success in this art. It's one of the most powerful, one of the most, rewarding. So many different careers are rewarding. Financial sales can be very rewarding if you know what you are doing, and it's not that complicated. So that's some of the things that we do, and that's what how I overcame my little non-expertise level.
Well, you definitely have shared your expertise with us today, and I absolutely appreciate it, and our audience appreciates it as well, because sales is one of those things that it is a 5-letter word that feels like a 4-letter word to a lot of people, and I think that, you've helped to, to demystify some of the issues that people have around selling, and to say, look, please, give us a word of advice. I'm going to ask you right now, give us a word of advice about, let's take the value and the benefit in selling and really standing. What are your best words of wisdom that our listeners can take away with really feeling confident with that sales?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I would say the best word of advice is be you. Be you. Don't be anybody else, because there are people who are going to be attracted to your personality, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, or you're I don't know, Stephen King. Whatever personality you have, people will want to connect with you because of that personality. Be human. And when you can do that, understand the basic fundamentals that I can train you on, or any other company that offer coaching or training, any of the sales professional out there that does stuff what we do. You learn from them, because I think that you take those principles and apply your personality. And when you're you, powerful things happen in the show. Powerful things. You gain these strong relationships with folks because you are just you. So that's my last bit of advice. Be you.
Well, that is definitely why you and I connected, because you were being you, and I found you. And now I don't even remember how I found you, but I found you. I'm glad I did.
Yay! I'm glad you did.
Me too.
It's a good friendship, so it's awesome.
Absolutely, and I love listening to your podcast. I always get really good information. Please tell folks how they can find you aside from on our website. But for those who are listening right now and they just want to jump right on and find the Sales Evangelist, where should they go?
Best place? Well, there's several best places. The easiest one, you can always go to our website, thesalesevangelist.com, or you can join our private Facebook group. It is the Sales Evangelizers, like you said, and that's where I camp out a lot. We have a lot of people that come out, and they might join the group. They ask questions. They come and read the comments, gain insight, build strategic alliances, build relationships. Or you can always like our Facebook page, which is the Sales Evangelist. You can find it on Facebook as well. And I'm on Twitter, Donald C. Kelly. I'm tweeting all the time. And also on LinkedIn if you want to professionally connect. But don't send me that general stuff like, I want to add you to my professional network. Tell me your first one. the most electrifying podcast, Michelle's podcast, and that you want to connect with me, and I would love to connect and build a relationship there. So
let them know. Tell them I'm a sister power hustler or a brother power hustler, because we have loads of guys who are listening, which is really awesome, and I'm loving it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're doing a wonderful thing with your podcast, too, and I love the name, Her Power Hustle. And some people might, like you said, some people might think, oh, it's just her. No, everyone can benefit from this. It's the fact that you learn to take the principle of the whole thing, learn to be a hustler. And I feel that you have done a great job, and you're building a wonderful community. You have this powerful way of building relationship with people and lasting connection. So I know your audience can and they should be learning a ton from you. They just got to apply that stuff that they're sharing you. So I appreciate all that you're doing for continuing to build a community and strategic alliances and friendships. So thank you, and continue doing what you're doing over here.
Thanks, Navit. Now I have to zero out the PayPal account and give you that 20 back from your introduction. Thank you so much, Donald. I do appreciate your kind words, sir. All right, so we're going to roll out of here. We have one final question for you. Are you ready? Because it's the hardest one you've ever been asked on any podcast, I can guarantee you. Ready?
I'm ready.
What is your favorite song or movie about love or romance?
Love, or what's the last one?
Romance. So love generally, or specifically romantic love?
I would have to say my favorite, because I watched this when my wife and I were dating. She loved it. Is The Notebook. So
that's great. It made me smile.
Yeah, The Notebook is a good one. So we like it. I thought it was a good little story, and it's a fun little one to watch, and brings back sentimental meaning to us when we were dating. So.
Aww. This is exactly why I asked the question, because I never judge the movie or the song that the guys share, because I only ask this question of the men. I never judge the movie or the song. The point is just a matter of humanizing you and saying, look, we all have feelings and relationships and love and heartbreak, and I appreciate you sharing all of that with us today and evangelizing sales for the Her Power Hustle listeners.
A to the men, Michelle.
A to the men. And I will see you soon, sir, because we got some podcast business to do. So I'm excited about that. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
So I hope that you are glad that you did not press stop and move on to another episode yet, and that you got really great information from Donald. I think for me, the biggest takeaways were really thinking through that whole 8 to 12 touches before someone makes a purchase. I think it is so easy to get disheartened and discouraged. Even yesterday, if you are in our Sister Power Hustlers group and you are listening to this on the day of release, you know that I posted even my own frustrations about growing the listenership for this podcast, in fact, and feeling disheartened and discouraged and looking at some of my peers and saying, why are they getting so many downloads and I don't feel that I'm, measuring up to near where they are. And sometimes we can get discouraged in this business. And when you hear that you have to touch someone 8 to 12 times, what if you give up on time number 11? If you give up on time number 11, you will never make the sale. So I think that one of my biggest takeaways from this conversation is really more so about perseverance overall and how we can take ourselves to the next level by not giving up, but by also getting great information and surrounding ourselves with amazing folks. Because just like I said, I put that little rant in our Facebook group, I also got so many comments from Sister Power Hustlers, and I appreciate you all because you gave perspective. Some were like, go ahead, girl, just rant. You deserve it. Everybody needs a rant every once in a while. And others were like, you can't compare yourselves to others. And it was just really all what we need to hear. And sometimes it's lonely road. This is hard. This is a very difficult path that we've chosen, but yet it's also a very rewarding path. So I think Donald's advice was right on about not bringing our own baggage to the table, not feeling like we are being rejected, and understanding what an objection really is and how to peel back the layers to that. And then the final piece, of course, because I love pop culture references, my Ratatouille Anyone Can Cook. And if you go over to the show notes page, you can see a little Ratatouille homage there at herpowerhustle.com/sales. But really, the fact is, anyone can sell. And I love that because so often we think only great personalities or only people who are truly magnanimous and gregarious and outgoing and just love to, work a room are salespeople. And Donald said even those people really are only possibly mastering one piece of the process. And so it's another reminder not to necessarily compare yourself with someone else and think that they're getting success or doing something better than you are just because they're doing something differently than you do. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up my takeaways. I would love to hear your takeaways. Again, you can head over to the show notes. I've also put links in there to the books that Donald mentioned during the interview, so you can check those out. Daniel Pink, Jeb Blunt, and also I would love to hear from you generally. So you can hit me up at Michelle at herpowerhustle.com. And if you would like to have your business highlighted on the show, I do a free 30-second spot for women-owned businesses. And if you are interested, you can fill out the form on the website at herpowerhustle.com/sales. So without further ado, I hope you have a wonderful week. I look forward to speaking with you next time. Her hustle is real.